everyone, and welcome to Freckles and Blondie, your weekly Lost podcast discussing all things Lost. I'm Randy.
And I'm Tiffany.
And today we're discussing Season 1, Episode 8, which is called Confidence Man. This episode was directed by Tucker Gates. He will go on to direct 6 more episodes of Lost, all the way through Season 6. It originally aired on November 10th, 2004, and it was written by Damon Lindelof, one of the show creators, and he previously wrote Tabula Rasa and parts of the pilot episodes. This is one of your favorite episodes of Lost, correct?
I mean, every Sawyer episode is one of my favorite episodes of Lost, so you could say that, I guess.
Okay.
I found out a distressing fact the other day.
Uh-oh.
There are only 6 episodes about Sawyer in the entire run of Lost.
Really?
Doesn't that sound, wrong?
Yeah, that's bizarre. I mean, he's one of, the main characters. I would have thought it would have been a lot more.
I know, me too. And just as comparison, I looked up Jack. He has 12 episodes.
Really?
Yeah. So, I'm feeling a little Sawyer shortchanged here.
Huh.
That is not right.
Okay. Yeah, that's weird.
Sawyer episodes are always so wonderful. I love them so much. He's such a complicated character. I feel like we really need his episodes to understand what motivates him. Because otherwise, I know you look at him and you just want to punch him in the face, and I feel like he really needs backstory to be understood.
Right. But even though I feel like at the end of this episode, I understand him more, he still frustrates me.
Right.
His character arc in this episode, it doesn't really seem, it's just kind of flat. You know what I mean? He doesn't arc like some of the past characters we talked about, in my opinion.
He doesn't change or learn anything yet?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
They've kind of been on a theme with that. I feel like in Tabula Rasa, Kate, we were looking at her backstory and she got to the point where she wanted to tell Jack what she did. With Charlie, he was overcoming his addiction. Jack, with his father dealing with those issues, most of the characters seem to have arced a certain way and reached a new higher point. Sawyer, I feel like, doesn't do that in this episode.
No, I feel like Sawyer is a tougher nut to crack, in a way. For him, it's just the fact that he cracked it all and we got to see anything about what is going on inside of him. I feel like Kate learning a little bit more about who he is as far as we get with him. But you're right. I don't feel like he himself has grown as a result of this episode. Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem to be what this episode's trying to do. But I don't know. I guess we'll see going forward if Sawyer will do that in the future. But right now, doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, I was reading some stuff online. Apparently, Damon Lindelof wrote this episode, and I read that when he wrote it, the point was to make Sawyer seem less belligerent. And more sympathetic, which I guess he achieved, but I just wish his goal had been a little bit different. I don't know.
Yeah, to maybe make him not less sympathetic, but more good? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I like Jack, but, the characters who aren't always quote-unquote good all the time are also interesting. Not every character has to be like Jack, but
sure,
it is a little frustrating. I don't know.
I do think if his goal was to make Sawyer more sympathetic, he completely achieved it. Because I can't think of a more sympathetic backstory than the one we get.
Yeah. But his actions on the island completely contradict that,
Well, they contradict it, but at least you get sort of an inkling of where all this anger comes from.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Because I always tell people anger is just a reaction to pain. And that's how I feel about Sawyer.
Yeah, I can see that.
I love him. I'll defend him forever.
I know you will. I know you will. on a kind of unrelated side note, I was listening to a podcast at work today. I listened to a podcast called Nerdist. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people listening have heard of it. It's really popular. It's hosted by Chris Hardwick, and he basically just interviews celebrities and interesting people. But anyway, he has this new show on AMC called Talking with Chris Hardwick, where he just invites people on to just talk about stuff. And he puts it on his podcast. And he had Damon Lindelof on last week.
Ooh.
And if any of you guys, I'm assuming you're all Lost fans since you're listening to this podcast, but you should definitely check out that episode. It's really fascinating. He talks about Lost. He talks about the way it came about and how, you know, cause he was there from the beginning. He helped write and shoot the pilot. He talks about how they pitched the show. He talks about, you know, the ending and how people were mad about it. It's really, really fascinating.
I need to listen to that.
Yeah, you do.
I would love to hear how they pitched this show because it sounds like such a ridiculous idea.
Right. Well, it was funny. You remember I told you that I thought when I saw the commercials, I thought it looked like Survivor.
Yeah.
And that's originally why they pitched the show. Because apparently, I think I'm getting this right, some executives from ABC, because like in 2004, Survivor was one of the top reality shows on TV. It was so popular. So apparently an executive at ABC came to Damon and a few other people and was like, can you come up with a script that's like a drama version of Survivor? Isn't that crazy?
Also, throw in some polar bears and stuff.
Right. But yeah, it's interesting because he also talks about how, because I think when we're watching this first season, all these early episodes seem so confident. Like their writing just seems so they know exactly what they're doing. And in that interview, Damon Lindelof talks about how after they shot the pilot, they didn't think it would get picked up and they didn't think it would even last for more than half a season. So all of a sudden when the pilot, I mean, I think 17 million people watched it. It was huge. And the executives came to him and they were like, you need to write the rest of this. And he was kind of like, oh crap, I've got to explain polar bears and smoke monsters now. Like, what am I going to do?
That's hilarious.
Isn't it?
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And the other, I'll stop talking about this, but the other interesting thing I thought was when, because Damon Lindelof said originally they wanted this to be a very contained story and they only wanted it to be 4 seasons long, the whole show.
Oh.
And apparently because Lost was this huge hit, all the executives at ABC were like, you don't cancel shows like Lost after 4 seasons. Like you have to, you know, beat this thing until it dies. So they wanted it to last 9 seasons. Can you imagine? That would have been a nightmare. I feel like.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I see why they wanted it to last 9 seasons.
Right. But
so I guess 6 was the compromise.
Yeah. 6 was the compromise. Which I thought was fascinating. But yeah, anyway, you should definitely listen to it. And anyone who's listening and who's interested in hearing more about the background of the show and how it came about, definitely listen to that episode on the Nerdist podcast. It's really good.
I'm definitely going to listen to that.
Okay. Shall we get into this monster episode of Sawyer?
I think you've put it off as long as you can, Randy. It's time to talk about Sawyer.
Okay. Let's do it. Previously on Lost, Michael and Jin had an altercation on the beach. Michael found out that Sun speaks English, and Saeed was knocked out in the jungle while trying to fix the radio. So we open on Kate, who's carrying a bunch of bananas on the beach. She comes across a pile of clothes, some cigarettes, and the book Watership Down. Sawyer emerges from the ocean where he was swimming naked. He comes on to Kate, because that's what he always does, and she walks away.
He's a confident man.
I mean, that's one word for it. He has such an interesting look on his face when she walks away. It looks very conflicted.
He has a look on his face through a lot of this episode, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
Josh Holloway's amazing.
Yeah, he
is so good at playing these mixed emotions in these scenes. He's so good at playing Sawyer as very hard, but seeing a little bit of soft in there at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. He's doing some very complex stuff in this episode.
Definitely.
My beef with Sawyer has never been with Josh Holloway's acting. I think he's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Evangeline Lilly is really great too. I feel like she does a lot of stuff that gets unnoticed.
Yeah.
I think it's obvious that Sawyer is doing a lot, but I think she does just as much. She meets him at every angle.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
She just seems to have like amazing chemistry with anyone she's in a scene with.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like it doesn't matter who it is. She like makes them better.
Yeah, which I feel like is so hard to do. Her and Jack, her and Sawyer, her and Saeed, like everyone really.
Yeah, her and Claire, like everyone she talks to, I just feel like she makes that actor like greater.
Yeah, I feel like people don't appreciate her as much as they should.
They totally should. She's in like so many scenes too.
I know.
She's working.
Yeah, she is. We cut to a flashback. Sawyer is in bed with a woman. He tells her that he loves her, and she says she can't possibly want anything else. It's a little much, and then the woman informs Sawyer that it's 3:28 p.m., and he's going to be late for his meeting at 3:30. Sawyer starts rushing around and throwing on his clothes. As he takes a briefcase off the dresser, it opens and a ton of cash spills out. Sawyer says she wasn't supposed to see that.
Did you buy into this the first time you saw it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did too.
He sells it so well. It's hard not to.
Josh Holloway's a great actor and Sawyer is a great actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very convincing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at this point I'm intrigued, but I'm not terribly surprised.
Right. Like it's also not you see him with a suitcase full of cash and you're like, okay, clearly Sawyer did something shady to get that cash.
Right.
What did he do?
Exactly. He's into some shady business. It's not terribly
this is not surprising.
Yeah, exactly. Back in real time, Sawyer is walking through the jungle when he hears some strange noises. He starts running and comes across Boone, who appears to be ransacking Sawyer's stash of stuff. Which, I mean, I've said this before, but I feel like not many other survivors would have a secret stash of stuff.
I feel like Boone is the one who should be labeled a thief at this point. Cause, this is the second time he's done this. He is the one who stole the water. He has given people more reason to think he's gonna steal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know if false conflict is the right words to describe it, but I mean, why couldn't Boone just walk up to Sawyer and ask, hey, I see you have my book. Do you have the inhalers I'm looking for?
Yes.
Maybe we could have avoided this whole episode.
I know. There are so many times in this episode that happens. And it's that same pattern every time. People are just assuming something about Sawyer. And if they just asked, who knows what he would say, you know?
Right. That kills me in this episode. That and the fact that Sawyer goes along with it. You know, he has his own reasons for doing that. But he plays right into it.
He does. And I think figuring out why he does is kind of the whole point.
Yeah, that's true.
But man, Boone irritates me.
Yeah, Boone hasn't really done anything up to this point that hasn't been irritating.
He really hasn't. I mean, the only thing I like about him is later on when he sits down with Shannon and keeps her company. That's the only good moment I feel like he's had.
Yep, I agree. In the caves, Jack is treating Saeed's head wound. Saeed tells Jack that he was trying to locate the source of the distress call when he was knocked out. He says the attacker came from behind and destroyed all of his equipment. Jack advises Saeed that they'll figure this out and not to do anything rash. But Saeed says he'll do what he must to find the attacker.
Yeah, I thought this scene was kind of interesting. I like how Saeed tells Jack, I will do what I need to do to find the man responsible. But Jack is saying, don't do anything. And like all along, I've kind of been feeling like Saeed is a leader in a way. And I feel like this is him sort of rejecting Jack's leadership. Like, I gotta do what I gotta do, man, you know?
Right.
It's interesting. And I don't know if it's him saying, like, I feel like I said it wrong before. I don't feel like he's saying, like, Jack shouldn't be the leader. I think he doesn't need to be led.
Right.
Sayid is like an independent entity.
Right. It's like if he ever goes along with what Jack's doing, it's because he agrees with it.
Right. Exactly.
You know? But if he doesn't, he's just going to do his own thing.
Right. He's like, I'm not just going to do whatever you tell me, dude.
Right.
But I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, but I'm out.
Right. Shannon appears, half carrying a badly beaten Boone. Jack and Sayid ask Boone what happened, and he replies, Sawyer. And with that, we cut to the title shot.
Ugh. Good Lord. This episode is really just, how can we misrepresent Sawyer in as many ways as possible?
I mean, yeah.
It's like, yes, this was Sawyer. However, you didn't say that you were like rifling through all his stuff and being a jerk.
Right. Which Jack does make him point that out later. But yeah, true. Yeah. Boone's kind of the worst.
He really is. He needs to step up soon.
Yeah. Coming back, Claire is sitting on the beach writing in her journal. Charlie comes up to her with a morning delivery of water. He says he worries about her sitting on the beach in the hot sun all day. Claire says she's fine, and she has her hat, and that she wants to be on the beach for when they get rescued. Charlie does not look convinced. And yeah, I feel like anyone who's still holding out hope for rescue at this point is just very optimistic, you know?
Well, it's been 8 days. That's not that long.
I feel like it's been 2 weeks. Didn't they say it's been 2 weeks?
I thought I read 8 days at some point, but either way.
You might be right, yeah.
Even if it is 2 weeks. I mean, I wouldn't be feeling good about it, but still be kind of hopeful. I think especially if I'm Claire, I need to be hopeful that I'm getting off this island and not having this baby here.
Yeah, good point. I didn't think about that.
But yeah, her and Charlie are just such a breath of fresh air in this episode.
They're so cute. Oh.
They're so sweet, and it's such a tense episode. Every moment feels very stressful.
Yeah.
Except when you're with Claire and Charlie, and you're just like, thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it's the perfect contrast for everything else that's going on in the episode.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that this Claire and Charlie storyline with, like, the peanut butter and everything was in this episode.
Yeah.
It's the perfect episode for it to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I'd forgotten too, because I rarely rewatch this episode because of Sawyer.
Of course you do.
I know. But yeah, it's not that bad. In the caves, Jack is tending to Boone's wounds. Boone tells him that Shannon has asthma and has had it since they were kids. Apparently she carries around an inhaler, but it ran out a few days ago. Boone saw Sawyer reading Watership Down, which was in his checked luggage, where he also packed extra inhalers for Shannon. He assumes that Sawyer has the rest of his luggage, and Boone says if Shannon has an attack, it will not be good. I mean, again, Boone, you probably should have just asked Sawyer if he had the inhalers.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, what he says to Jack is, he just jumped me, man. And it's like, no, he did not just jump you.
I know, blatant lie.
You're rifling through his stuff, and you actually have a legitimate reason to do that. Like, just explain yourself. Ugh.
Right.
So frustrating.
Yeah, it makes me think that if he had, maybe Sawyer would have just, I mean, he's not completely unreasonable at certain points.
No, I mean, Kate was like, we need the laptop battery, and he just handed it to her.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time they just don't even bother. They're like, oh, he won't give it to us.
Yeah, but I mean, you could make the argument that up to this point, he's done everything in his power to kind of, I don't want to say lock himself in this corner. Like, he's just been so antagonistic for almost this entire time they've been on the island.
I mean, he has been, but I feel like they're also just assuming too much. Like, they're not asking, they're not explaining anything.
Right.
So at this point, I'm like, well, of course he's being antagonistic. I would be frustrated too.
Yeah, that's true. Sawyer is reading a piece of paper and smoking on the beach. Jack comes up suddenly and starts rifling through his stuff, looking for the inhalers. Jack accuses Sawyer of attacking Boone when he was trying to help his sick sister, and Sawyer says that Boone is a thief. They continue to fight until Kate walks over and asks what's going on. Jack looks at Sawyer and walks away.
Ugh. Okay. So here's what should have happened in this scene.
Okay. Tell me.
Jack needed to be the calm, rational one. When he just comes blazing into Sawyer's tent, taking all his stuff, he's being Boone. He's not doing anything different than Boone did. I want him to be better. I want him to be a leader and set an example and at least give Sawyer the opportunity to say no. 'Cause nobody has asked him yet. He just comes in there, he starts rifling through his stuff, and then he picks a fight with him, and he's the one who's picking the fight. He's like, "Get up, Sawyer, get up." And he's like, "Whoa, dude." I just feel like Jack is the one who needs to set the moral example, and Boone is the childish one, and he just hasn't learned yet. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I can see your point. I feel like Jack's a little bit more upset because Shannon obviously has a medical issue, and you know how Jack gets whenever anyone gets in the way of that.
Yes, and it's totally understandable for him to be pissed off, especially because Boone did not give him the correct story. So he's going off of Sawyer just randomly jumped Boone, which is not what happened. But I still feel like if he's gonna be the leader, he needs to take a breath and try to use some diplomacy.
Right. I agree with that, but I mean, I would say in Jack's defense, there's a line when, I can't remember exactly what is said, but Jack's, rifling through his stuff and asks Sawyer, Sawyer's like, "What are you looking for?" And Jack's like, "The inhalers." And Sawyer says, "Oh, that." And the way he says, "Oh, that," is he's indicating that he knows exactly what Jack is talking about and he's not going to give it up. Sawyer could have ended this entire episode right there being like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have the inhalers."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He did that on purpose because that's, his deal has to do with his backstory, whatever.
Well, I feel like he's just incapable of showing all his cards. He doesn't want to give away all his information.
No, but he's blatantly lying. Don't you think?
Yeah. No, I think he is. And I think it's that's his power, Yeah. I'm holding on to my things and I'm not going to tell you what I do or do not have. And that's his way of controlling the situation, which, not a good thing, but I think that's why he's doing it.
Yeah. It's hard because I can definitely see it from both sides. I wish Jack had been calmer. I mean, obviously going in, like you said, he's not really being a great leader in this moment. He didn't have to go in as the way he did and just start picking a fight. But again, Sawyer he's not exactly innocent at this point.
There's rarely a moment where Sawyer is innocent, but
you can't act like an asshole 100% of the time and be surprised when it backfires. Sawyer almost acts surprised when everyone immediately starts blaming him and thinking he has the inhalers and rifling through his stuff. And it's let's look at your rap sheet for the past, week and a half we've been on this island. You know what I mean? You've kind of...
what is his rap sheet other than he was being horrible to Saeed the first day they were there and he took the stuff from the plane.
Right.
Other than that, what else has he done?
I mean, he was looking through luggage that wasn't his. Jack found him in the fuselage. He also failed to kill the marshal.
But that was a mistake. That wasn't intentional.
Right. But I mean, still.
I'm just thinking about Sawyer in comparison to Boone right now. Because Boone has made conscious decisions to do the wrong thing over and over now. And I feel like he's getting a free pass and everybody's trusting him over Sawyer. And I don't understand why. I'm not saying that they should trust Sawyer because they shouldn't. But I don't see why everyone is totally okay with all the things Boone's done so far.
I mean, Boone's just kind of forgettable. Sawyer just he has this special way of getting under your skin. He's good at it. He's perfected it.
He certainly has. And he's certainly very noticeable.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see both points.
Yeah. I can too.
There's a couple of lines in the scene that are so funny. When Jack says get up and Sawyer's like, why? You want to see who's taller? I was crying, like laughing for a long time. The way he delivers lines sometimes is perfect.
It's very funny. It's also very funny in contrast to Jack, who is clearly so worked up, and Sawyer could not be more unfazed.
Yeah, it's great. In a flashback, Sawyer is still getting dressed. He explains to the woman, whose name is Jess, that the money in the suitcase is everything he has. It's $140,000. It's for an investment in an oil mining operation on the Gulf of Mexico. If you invest $300,000, your money will triple in 2 weeks. Sawyer says he's found an investor who wants to go in 50-50, and that this is his big chance. Jess says she has a better idea, and that she'll give Sawyer the remaining money he needs by using her husband's money.
I'm sure he won't mind.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All I wrote down for this scene is, God, Sawyer is a great liar.
Yeah, he's really good at it.
I'm just so convinced by everything he says.
I know. I totally buy it. And I mean, this whole thing is kind of gross. You just know it's not going to end well for anyone.
Oh, sure. Definitely not.
On the beach, Jack says he's going to kill Sawyer. Kate points out that won't solve anything and asks Jack what's stopping him. Jack tells Kate, we're not savages. Not yet. Kate asks Jack to let her talk to Sawyer. Apparently they have a connection. Jack asks if they do, and Kate denies it. Which, I love the way Jack gets so jealous when he asks her if they have a connection. It's really cute.
I know. He's just really self-conscious as soon as she says that. He's like, wait, what? Do you? Yeah. And she's like, no, totally don't.
Oh, God. Okay. Kate finds Sawyer, who's chopping wood on the beach. She asks him what he wants for the inhalers, and he says a kiss. Kate says she doesn't buy it, and that nobody is that disgusting. She's only asking him to help a woman who can't breathe. Kate then says she's seen Sawyer reading that piece of paper, and that it must mean something important to him. There must be a human being in there somewhere, she says. Sawyer becomes extremely angry, walks over to Kate, and shoves the paper into her hands. He then makes her read it out loud. The letter is addressed to Mr. Sawyer, and it accuses a Mr. Sawyer of sleeping with his mother and stealing his dad's money. The dad then got angry and killed the mother before killing himself. The letter writer promises to find Sawyer one day and give him the letter so he can remember what he did to his parents. Kate is obviously shocked by this. Sawyer takes the letter back, and after asking about the kiss again, he walks away.
Such a good scene.
It's great. I love this scene.
This is probably my favorite scene in the whole episode.
Yeah, it might be mine too. I mean, the way it's shot, it's beautiful. I love the way you can see, like, Kate's talking to him in the background before he pulls out the letter and he's chopping wood, and you can kind of see how he reacts to everything she says.
Yes, how he, like, visibly tenses when she says the wrong thing. So good. And I just love the rise and fall of this conversation.
Yeah.
It starts off playful like it always does with them. Kate's like, I see you. I see who you are. And he does not like that.
Nope, he doesn't.
Sawyer doesn't want her to see that side of him. He doesn't want her to see the side of him he is when he reads that letter.
Right.
It's so good. It's so painful. It's painful to watch because you can tell he's in so much pain from that conversation.
Yeah, it's just intense. Like you said, the rise and fall of the conversation is really well done. It gets intense kind of quickly. It almost seems like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like as soon as she touches on that letter and the way he looks when he reads it, he snaps. Mm-hmm. And he's no longer a playful, sarcastic Sawyer. He's like scary. And it's like a light switch, the way he changes. And
yeah,
he's just like, he becomes vicious. He's like, you think you understand me? Shut up.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, that is not the guy who we've had so far. This is like a scary guy.
Right.
And honestly, as annoying as Sawyer has been up to this point, I don't think anyone's really scared of him.
Right. That's true. And you can see how Kate reacts to it. She's obviously scared as well.
Yeah, scared and I think surprised to see this side of him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think she's definitely seen him as pretty harmless so far. And I think reading that letter is especially surprising because she doesn't actually think he's that bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think other people might think he's that bad, but Kate doesn't.
Yeah, it's really well done.
What do you think of him wanting a kiss for the inhaler? Like, do you read more into that or are you just thinking, ew, Sawyer's gross?
I mean, I hate it because it's gross. I'm not sure. I mean, he says stuff later when they actually kiss that really is just drives me crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's just Sawyer being gross. That's how I read it.
Because I don't read it like that at all.
How do you read it?
I read it like he is wanting a connection with somebody on this island.
Really?
Yeah, that's the way I kind of read it. Like, obviously, yes, a little gross too. But it just seems like his act of desperation to like connect with Kate.
Connect because it's Kate or just he wants to connect with anyone? With
her in particular.
Huh.
And like, this is his way of like, one, kind of forcing that along and two, pissing off Jack.
Interesting.
He's just so complicated.
I don't know what to say about that. Yeah. Cause every time he says it, it just makes me angry.
Yeah.
It's just so lecherous. And
yeah.
I mean, if he had asked for anything else, I would be a lot less angry with him.
Would you feel the same if it was Jack and saying he just wanted one kiss from Kate?
Jack would never do that, though. He would never do that.
He wouldn't. He would not do that. But I don't think it would be as appalling to you if he did.
But see, I can't even come up with a scenario in my mind where he would ever say that to her. But yeah, I mean, part of my problem with this is they kind of cement the whole love triangle between the three of them in this episode. And that always drives me crazy. So whenever I watch Sawyer, I always have to remind myself, I think part of the reason why I don't like him so much is because he's competition for Jack and Kate, who,
right,
as we all know, I am very into. So
you don't want any potential hindrances for Jack and Kate getting together.
Right. I mean, yeah, sometimes I wonder if there had been no Sawyer and Kate, how I would have felt about Sawyer. I think I would have been a little bit more sympathetic towards his character.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that being true. Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk more about the whole love triangle thing that will happen in the future.
Oh, God.
But I don't want to get too deep into it, but it does seem pretty obvious at this point that there's things happening between Kate and both of these guys.
Yeah, but it's they do this on TV shows all the time, and I guess in stories in general. Why is it it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. It's entertaining.
Yeah, but it's such a cheap way to create conflict between two people. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I agree. And sometimes I feel like that is just genuinely what happens and is genuine conflict. As far as these three go, I tend to feel like Kate and Sawyer are the most fun to watch, but in actuality, I kind of want Kate to be with Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I definitely prefer the Kate and Sawyer scenes because I just feel like they are explosive and they're fireworks and they're just entertaining. And Kate and Jack, it's just like, well, you should be together.
You're okay.
You know?
Yeah. Okay.
They're predictable, Kate and Jack, to me. I'm like, well, that's the guy you're supposed to be with. What's going to happen if you're with Sawyer?
Okay. I disagree.
But this is like super far. We probably shouldn't even be talking about this right now.
Let's move on. It's making me angry just thinking about it. So.
And plus, we might change our minds as we actually like look at it more in depth.
Sure.
Okay, you're not going to change your mind on this. I know.
No, I'll have an open mind. I already enjoyed this episode, more than I thought I would, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Saeed comes up to Locke in the caves and asks him where he was at sunset last night. Locke doesn't have an alibi, but claims to have been skinning a boar. Locke suggests whoever attacked Saeed must have had a good reason for not wanting to get off the island. Maybe someone who is profiting from their current circumstances. Saeed assures Locke that Sawyer had an alibi, since he set off his bottle rocket right before Saeed was hit. Locke says he could have found a way to time delay the fuse on his rocket, and all he would have needed was a cigarette. Locke then gives Saeed one of his knives, in case there is a next time.
This scene makes me angry.
Yeah, me too. For a lot of reasons.
Yes. I'm like, ugh, Locke, you are letting me down. Because up till now, you have done no wrong for me.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first point where I'm just like, come on.
He's clearly throwing Sawyer under the bus because, I mean, it's obvious that he did it to Saeed, right?
What are you saying? It's obvious to Saeed that Sawyer did it?
No, that Locke did it. Maybe it's not obvious, never mind.
Did you pick up on that in this episode? Like the first time you watched it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't the first time. I don't know. It's been so long, but we know it wasn't Sawyer. We saw him. We saw him set off the rocket.
Right.
So we, the audience, know that Locke is lying.
See, I just think Locke is just assuming that Sawyer's the worst, kind of like everyone else is. It wasn't until, I don't think Locke actually comes out and says this or reveals it was him until a lot later this season, right?
I don't know. I don't even feel like he needs to. It just seemed so obvious to me from this scene, but...
Okay. See, I don't pick up on things like that very often. I'm a little slower when it comes to things like that. So I remember when Locke revealed it later on, and I think it's like toward the end of season 1, I was shocked because I never thought it was Sawyer either, but I never thought it was Locke.
I think it's just, he's like too insistent that it's Sawyer when he doesn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he be so insistent that it's him? And he's so specific, like, oh, maybe the guy with the cigarettes did it, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taken in by him. I think he's a good liar as well. So when he like does that throwaway line of like, anyone can learn how to time delay a fuse on a rocket, you just need a cigarette.
Right.
Like, oh,
and
crap.
he was like, who would want to stay on this island? And you're like, well, duh, Locke does. The guy who now can walk.
Yeah, exactly. It's obvious. Yeah, it's obvious, I guess.
I feel like it's only obvious to the audience. It's not obvious to Saeed. Like, I don't think there's any reason Saeed would not buy this other than the rocket thing, which I think is pretty good evidence. I don't know. Maybe Saeed shouldn't buy this either. Saeed's smart. Yeah,
I mean, my notes for this are, come on, Saeed. Sawyer, I mean, he's not an idiot, but he's not that smart. So Saeed is like jumps to that conclusion so fast as soon as Locke suggests it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It fits with this episode where I feel like people are making great leaps off of a little bit about Sawyer.
Yeah, it's annoying. But yeah, this is some shady stuff from Locke. I don't like it.
Yeah.
We cut to the caves where Shannon is struggling to breathe. Jack looks through the medicine for something that can help. Suddenly, Sawyer comes strolling in to fill up his water bottle. Jack walks over to him and demands that Sawyer hand over the inhalers. He continues to resist, and Jack punches him. Sawyer says it's about time and that he didn't think Jack had it in him. Jack punches him again, but when he sees everyone at the caves watching, he walks away, with Sawyer asking, "Is that all you've got?"
This is so fascinating.
I mean, Sawyer's unbelievable here. The way he strolls into the caves.
He really does. He's like, oh, hey guys, what's up?
Right. It's just so, the way he walks in with his water bottle is so arrogant, like he owns the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's just, I mean, I know we know why he does it later, but at this point, you know he knows that every single person in those, like every single person in those caves thinks he has the inhalers.
Yep.
And still, he doesn't just say, hey, I don't have these inhalers. Sorry. Like, he's so emotionally damaged. It's so sad for him.
So my theory on why he does this, because I like thought about this for quite a while. Like,
Okay.
why isn't he just saying he doesn't have the inhalers? I feel like he is pushing everyone to their limits right now on purpose to see what they're made of and to see like how they're going to react.
Really? Okay.
Especially Jack. I feel like he is doing this in particular to figure Jack out. This fight, I just think this fight is really interesting because, first of all, it's not really a fight. It's just Jack punching Sawyer over and over. Mm-hmm. Like, Sawyer doesn't hit back at all. He just, like, kneels there on the ground and saying, like, is that all you got? And I feel like he's just, like, testing the waters and trying to see who he really is.
See who Jack really is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why he's, like, playing out the whole inhaler thing in general. Not that I think he should be doing this, but I think that's why.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, I didn't look at it like that. That's interesting. To me, it just seems to echo what Kate says to him later on in one of the last scenes. I'm trying to figure out why you want everyone to hate you. Mm-hmm. So yeah. In my mind, Sawyer at this point is like, okay, I've built up this whole reputation as being an unbearable asshole. I'm lying about having the inhalers. What can I do right now that will totally escalate this situation? I know I can stroll into camp, you know, the caves where Shannon is, and just antagonize everyone. And I know Jack is like this close to losing it anyway, so this is perfect, you know?
He is a total sucker for pain.
Yeah, he is.
He's asking for it many times in this episode. That's why he's asking Kate for a kiss earlier. Like, he knows she's going to say no. He immediately, after the letter part, he knows she's going to say no. He's like, how about that kiss? Didn't think so. Because he knows she's going to say it. And he, like, expects this pain and, like, expects people to just, like, be awful. I think that's just what he assumes.
He wants people to be awful to him, you know?
He does, yeah.
He's so fascinating.
It's like he wants to be punished for the bad things he's done.
Yeah.
That's my, like, psychosomatic reading of this right now.
Which is such, that's such an interesting way to live your life, you know?
It is. It's so sad, but yeah.
It is sad and frustrating at the same time.
He's just so freaking tragic.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. He's like, to me, he's like 50% tragic, 50% why are you like this? I don't know.
This episode does explain why he is like this.
Yeah, that's true. In a flashback, Sawyer has lunch with Jess and her husband David. Sawyer says he's reluctant to go into business with the two of them since they're all friends and things could get messy. Apparently, Sawyer and Jess work together at an auto dealership. David says he doesn't even know Sawyer, who offers to let David hold on to the money so that he can feel more comfortable. Sawyer then changes his mind and says the deal is off. He gets up to walk away, but David calls him back at the last second. I feel like David's pretty gullible in this scene. Like, this is the oldest trick in the book, you know?
Yeah. Though I think the spend the night with my money thing is a good touch.
Yeah, that's true.
That would definitely surprise me, at least.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't be buying this unless I had some freaking paperwork to back it up.
Yeah, it's so shady. But just as soon as Sawyer starts to walk away, I guess people really do fall for that.
Oh, definitely. I could tell you stories about my little brother.
Yeah, same. I feel like this is a sidebar, but when I bought my first car like 10 years ago, my dad went with me because I had never done that before. And I was just ready to go in and like buy the car because I hate confrontation and talking to people in general.
Right.
He was like, no, we're going to negotiate the crap out of this. So we were there for hours. And finally, my dad was like, okay, we're just gonna, like, we're gonna walk away. And I was just like, what? No. And he was like, come on, trust me. Let's just walk away. And I remember we got almost outside and they were like, wait. And I was like, that really does work, I guess.
It really does work. I did the same thing buying my car, actually.
Did you? That's hilarious.
Because I was like, hey, I've been to dealerships all up and down this road today, and this other person's going to give me this amazing deal. And if you don't match it, I'm out.
Wow. That's so funny. I would never do that.
You gotta go in there with a game plan.
I would never. I'm too scared.
No, the secret is to get email quotes. That way you don't actually have to really do any confronting.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I did. I had it in writing that these other people were going to do this other deal.
That's so smart.
Boom.
Can you come with me when I buy my next car?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. Claire and Charlie are doing laundry on the beach, each taking turns to name something in the real world that they miss. Charlie's are apparently all food related, and he asks Claire if she has any food cravings. She says peanut butter, and admits she's the only Australian who likes it. Charlie makes her a deal. If he can get her peanut butter, then she has to move to the caves with him. They shake on it. It's so cute.
They're the best.
Yeah, they're awesome. At the caves, Shannon is having a really bad asthma attack. Jack comes over and tells her it's partly anxiety that's causing the attacks and helps her to get her breathing under control. Jack tells Boone to keep her relaxed and not to let her panic. And Hurley commends Jack on his Jedi moment. Saeed goes after Jack and asks him what will happen if Shannon doesn't get her medicine. He says they have to make Sawyer give it to them and volunteers for the job. Saeed says he spent 5 years in the Republican Guard and knows how to make the enemy communicate. Saeed tells Jack to give him 10 minutes with Sawyer and he'll give up the medicine. And Jack agrees.
So, hello, Jack that I like. It's nice to see you again.
Wait, please elaborate on this. I want to hear about this.
I just really like him with Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
The calm patience he has with her, and just like he has this authority about it. I mean, he's doing his doctor thing, and I guess that's where this is coming from, but he feels capable, he feels rational, he's like, this is the Jack that I like. And he disappears quite quickly, but I really like this scene.
Yeah, I do too.
I wish he were like this more. That's who I want him to be.
I feel like he has a good number of scenes like this.
In this episode?
No, just like in general, like doctor scenes where he's really just on it. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I enjoy this a lot as well.
Yeah, I don't necessarily love him just agreeing to let Saeed do whatever he wants to Sawyer, but I understand it because he needs that medicine for Shannon. So it's like at least done in the interest of Shannon.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem drastic, but Shannon could die. Like, this is serious business.
I don't think he realizes what Saeed's going to do either.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think he realizes what he has unleashed.
Yeah. I'm surprised at this point that Boone isn't more involved with trying to get Sawyer to talk about the inhalers. I mean, I guess he got scared after Sawyer beat the crap out of him at the beginning of the episode, but that's his sister, you know?
Yeah.
I expected Boone to come charging out of the jungle after Jack along with Saeed, being like, hey, what are we going to do? We have to get these inhalers from Sawyer.
Yeah, because he kind of does that later where he's like annoyed that they haven't told him everything.
Right. And it's like, well, where were you? You know?
Yeah. Seriously. I'm going to assume you were out getting Shannon some coconuts or something. We're going to go with that for your benefit.
Yes, we'll go with that.
But you know, that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
He's probably rifling through someone else's stuff.
Probably. Just making life more difficult for himself. Charlie and Hurley are walking through the jungle. Charlie's looking for peanut butter for Claire and asks Hurley if he has a secret food stash. However, Hurley says the food from the plane has been gone for 2 weeks. Charlie implies Hurley must be hiding something since he doesn't really look as if he's lost any weight since the plane crash. Hurley gets upset and says he's a big guy. It's going to take a while before you see a significant difference. Charlie apologizes.
Oh my God, so rude, Charlie.
It really was. It was so rude.
I didn't even need Hurley to say it. In my head, I was like, dude!
Yeah.
That is uncalled for.
I know. He's so charming about it.
I know.
Do you know?
He's the only one who could get away with this.
Right. I don't know if it's his British accent or just because I like that actor, but it's just like, oh, he really wants to find this peanut butter for Claire. He's doing everything he can.
He's desperate.
Yeah.
His rudeness comes out of desperation.
Right. It's cute. Michael is trying to clean a fish at the caves. Sun comes over and asks about Shannon. She tells Michael she thinks she can help her with her asthma attacks. On the beach, Saeed wakes Sawyer up by hitting him over the head. He and Jack drag Sawyer away as Kate asks what they are going to do. Jack says this was Sawyer's choice. I kind of half agree with Jack there.
Like half, yeah.
Yeah, he did kind of bring this on himself, but...
Like a little bit. Kind of.
Like 50%. But yeah.
I wish Kate would finish her sentence in that scene. Because she calls after them and she's like, if you do this,
yeah.
And then she stops. I want to know what she's going to say.
I do too. I feel like it could have, maybe, I mean, they were pretty hell-bent at this point on.
Kate seems to know kind of what's going to happen. And
yeah.
She knows it's wrong and they shouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's going to end badly for everyone.
Yeah. I feel like she would say, like, if you do this, like, you're responsible for what's going to happen. You only have yourself to blame.
Right. Or if you do this, you'll never be able to take it back.
Right.
Kind of.
Exactly. Especially earlier, he was like, we have to hang on to civilization, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is him totally not doing that.
Yep. It's not great. Sawyer is tied up to a tree. Jack tells him all he wants is the asthma medicine and that he gave him the chance to do the right thing. If Sawyer will just tell them where it is, they'll stop. Sawyer, of course, refuses. Jack tells him it doesn't have to be this way, and Sawyer says, yes, it does. Saeed comes over, sharpening some bamboo sticks with a knife. He says when these are inserted underneath the fingernails, the result is very effective. Sawyer tells him, I think you've never actually tortured anybody in your life. Saeed replies, unfortunately for us both, you're wrong. I love the look on Saeed's face when he says that.
I know.
So intense.
Yes. Oh, he's a great actor.
He is.
Naveen Andrews. He just looks haunted in that one sentence.
Right. Oh, I can't wait for next week's episode.
I get mad when Jack tells Sawyer, we gave you the chance to do the right thing. Because that did not happen. He came blazing into that tent, looking for stuff, and then started punching Sawyer in the face.
No. I would argue that Sawyer has had at least 3 opportunities to say, I don't have the medicine, and he's lying. He's blatantly lying.
He's definitely been given time to say, hey, I don't have them. Yes. But not by any grace of Jack's. Like, he's just been, like, rude doesn't even begin to cover it. He's been presumptuous the whole time without asking anything.
But again, Sawyer could have come up at any time in this last, 12 hours and says he doesn't have it. And he's also kind of brought this on himself. Like,
he definitely has. He's definitely played his part. I just am frustrated by Jack not realizing that he has played any part in this.
I mean, I think Jack thinks he's done everything he can. Like, he tells Sawyer, I've given you you've had every opportunity to do the right thing. If you just...
But that's his problem. Like, he hasn't.
But he has. Sawyer's had plenty of time to just say, he could have said from the beginning, I don't have this medication you're looking for. It started off when Jack was in his luggage and Jack was like, where's the medication? Sawyer's like, oh, that. Which he was lying. He clearly was indicating he had it when he doesn't.
He could be. Like, he didn't say, like, I have that. He didn't say, like, that's just something he can say that can be interpreted in whatever way Jack wants to interpret it.
No, Sawyer knew exactly what he was doing when he said it like that.
I'm sure he did. Like,
but the inflection of when he said that, like, Sawyer's not an idiot. He knew when he said that.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely what he was doing. I just think it's obvious that Sawyer is doing the wrong things, and I don't think it's obvious that everyone else is too. I think that's my problem.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. I do. It's frustrating to me that, and I know we'll find out later that Sawyer actually was a victim from when he was a child and this horrible thing happened to him. But I feel like during most of this episode, he's acting like, oh, poor me. Everyone's like, I don't deserve any of this. I didn't do anything wrong, when he kind of brought all this on himself. This episode, again, could have been avoided if he just said, I don't have the medicine.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. I just don't think he's woe is me. I think he is bringing it on himself on purpose.
Yeah,
thinking
that's true.
Like, I'm a bad guy. Let me get my bad guy reward, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's so complicated.
That he is.
I had a headache after I finished writing the notes for this episode, because it was so much stuff. Not bad
That's
stuff,
hilarious.
But it was, do you know what I mean? It was just so much conflict.
Yeah,
and
it is. It's so much. I mean, judging by the length of this episode we're doing right now, you can tell how much it is.
Yeah, guys, this is going to be a long one. Sorry about that.
I'm like trying to stop myself from saying more so that it doesn't become ridiculously long.
I know, me too. Me too. Saeed begins torturing Sawyer with the bamboo as Jack watches. Sawyer is screaming, and Jack tells Saeed to stop. Sawyer is somehow still making jokes, and Saeed threatens to cut out an eye with the knife. Sawyer finally relents and says the only person he'll tell is Kate. His
line here is my favorite Sawyer funny line of this episode. Don't stop now, I think my sinuses are clear.
Oh, yeah. That is a great line.
I laughed so hard.
He is unbelievable.
I mean, I think the worst part of this scene is seeing how easily Saeed slips into torture mode.
Yeah, it doesn't take him any time at all, it seems like.
No. It is creepy.
It's scary, yeah.
I like Saeed, so I hate like these moments where you see his darkness, because I don't know, it's just disappointing. I feel like he's a super utilitarian person, and he's just like, Shannon needs medicine. I can get Sawyer to tell me where the medicine is. This is what I have to do. Like, I feel like that's how he's thinking about it, but man, it's hard to watch.
Do you think he would have been so quick to jump to this conclusion if he and Sawyer hadn't had that, you know, that fight they had? I think it was in the pilot or Tabula Rasa.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's kind of been building since then. And I wonder if Saeed, I mean, maybe he would have done it anyway, but.
I don't know. I think he definitely has a lot of contributing things. There's that. He definitely has a tense relationship with Sawyer already. Yeah. Locke is feeding him stuff to make him hate Sawyer more. And he thinks he's upset about his equipment being destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's like his thing.
That's like the real reason that he goes off, I feel like.
Yeah. So I see how this happened, but it's disturbing nonetheless.
Yeah, it definitely is. In a flashback, Sawyer and his boss are playing pool in a bar. His boss is concerned that Sawyer left all of his money with a civilian, but Sawyer assures him it was all part of his plan and that the deal closed today. His boss asks why Sawyer needs his money after all of the jobs he's pulled, and Sawyer says he likes earning it as much as he likes spending it. His boss tells him to have all of his money plus 50% by noon tomorrow or else.
I love the scene transition from the scene where he's being tortured to this one, where his boss says, "Tell me, Sawyer, do you want to die?"
Yeah, it's well done.
So connects those really well. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel like Sawyer does these cons? Because I feel like this scene is really enlightening about that.
Do you?
Yeah, when he says, I like earning it as much as I like spending it, he's not doing this for the money. It's not about that at all. And I mean, obviously, when we learn about the letter and what happened to him, that makes a lot of sense too. But I feel like he's like mastering the con and like.
So he likes the act of lying to people.
Yeah, like I feel like he is trying to get inside the heads of everybody around him, and that's just what he does. And by doing all these cons, he's getting inside the head of, you know, Sawyer. I don't know how to refer to him. Mm-hmm. The guy who killed his parents.
Right.
So like this is his way of like practicing and like mastering that, I guess. That's kind of the way I read it when he like clearly seems uninterested in the money.
Practicing for when he finds Sawyer someday? The man who killed his parents? Or
yeah, like trying to get inside the head of that guy so he can find him.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, at this point when I watched it, I'm not sure I really found a reason why he was pulling all these cons, but I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
I mean, I think you're right.
Clear. I don't think there's like a definitive explanation, but I guess that's my kind of theory at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it just adds, I mean, if Sawyer was just going around robbing banks for money, it would be so different. But the fact that he's putting on this act and lying to people, it just heightens it so much, you know?
Yeah, it's very personal what he's doing.
Yeah, it makes it so much worse.
It is. It's like awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's personal to him because this is what has happened to his parents. And it's personal to these people whose lives he's ruining now.
Right. Goodness.
He's a mess, our Sawyer.
He's a real mess. On the island, Kate approaches Sawyer alone and asks where the medicine is. He promises to tell her as soon as she kisses him. She asks him if he's serious, and he says of course he is. And is Kate really going to let Shannon die because she won't kiss him? They kiss for a really long time.
It's a good kiss is what she's trying to say, but can't say because it's not Jack.
Nope. When they're done, Sawyer says he doesn't have the medicine and that he never did. The book that belonged to Boone washed up on shore. Kate punches Sawyer straight in the face, and frankly, who can blame her? So, I mean, I hate everything about this. I don't have to tell you why.
Do you hate the line, baby, I'm tied to a tree in the jungle of mystery?
Yeah.
I just got tortured by a damn spinal surgeon in genuine Iraqi?
Yeah, it's like he's taken on this cowboy persona.
I think it's so hilarious.
It's like, where do you think you are right now? I hate that.
In the jungle of mystery.
Oh, stop. Just stop. Don't ever say that to me again. I hate that. I hate also that he says, hell, it's only first base. You're lucky I ain't greedy. Like, oh, he's so disgusting. That line really gets me.
Yeah. I can see that.
It's gross. And he doesn't even have the medicine.
Doesn't have the medicine. But hey, now they know.
I mean, all my notes for this are just explanation points and like furious all caps. I really hate this. It's like he's reached his lowest point at this point, you know?
It's such a good reveal though, because everyone, you know, the audience has to be thinking right now that he had it the whole time. It's just, that's the twist that you always get, especially with Sawyer.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
And this is not the first time this has happened, where everyone was assuming something horrible about him, and it turned out he didn't have it in the first place. We're only like, how many episodes in are we? 8?
Yeah.
And that's already happened twice.
I know. And no spoilers, but he does this stuff later on, and it drives me crazy.
It's almost a mind game to keep straight the awful stuff he does and the awful stuff people think he does.
Right.
Because he allows that to mix constantly. Like, he is not setting the record straight.
Yeah.
On purpose.
That's true.
He's such a complicated human being.
Oh, I can't. And I hate that he kisses Kate. And that's obviously not what I wanted Kate's first kiss on the island to be. Like, I just hate I remember when I watched this episode for the first time, I mean, again, I'm way too invested in Jack and Kate, but I was furious. I was just like, how dare you let this happen? Anyway.
I'm really interested in his face right after they kiss, 'cause he looks really sad to me. And I'm wondering why that is.
You think he looks sad?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You were probably averting your eyes.
Yeah.
But he has a very, like, painful look on his face. Like, right beforehand, and then, like, when it's over.
Wow. That's fascinating.
I don't know if it's just him being, like, vulnerable in that moment, because he is a sad person.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he's sad that she's agreeing to it and this is how he had to get her to kiss him. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons for him to be sad, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not the, like, smarmy charming smile that he usually would have, especially about something like this.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it's because he's talking to Kate that he kind of loses that swagger.
He definitely seems more honest and more vulnerable around Kate.
Yeah. Anyway, Kate goes,
moving on.
Yeah, let's forget that rabbit. Kate goes back to Jack and Saeed and tells them Sawyer doesn't have the medicine. Saeed freaks out and accuses Sawyer of lying. He says Sawyer doesn't want them to get off the island and that he destroyed the transceiver. Before Jack can stop him, he runs back to Sawyer, who has escaped the rope tying him to the tree. The two fight, and Saeed ends up stabbing Sawyer in the arm with his knife. Jack tries to get the bleeding to stop and sends Saeed for his medical supplies at the caves. It's pretty intense.
It is really intense. It's weird to see Saeed lose his cool like that.
Right.
With a knife.
Yeah, and I mean, you can clearly tell he's jumping to conclusions when he says Sawyer destroyed the transceiver. Because Jack's like, hang on a minute, that doesn't, and then he's off.
Jack is probably like, dude, you got a knife, you need to calm down.
Yeah. You're making more work for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a super dramatic thing for Saeed to be doing.
Yeah. At the caves, Saeed finds Jack's bag, and Boone asks him whose blood that is. Saeed admits it's Sawyer's. Boone is upset they didn't even tell him they were going after Sawyer.
You weren't there.
Yeah. Where were you? But then Shannon calls out and asks Boone not to leave her alone. Yeah, I mean, there's only so many things you can do on an island, Boone. I'm sure you had plenty of time to come along on this journey to, apprehend Sawyer, but you chose not to.
Also, Shannon's right. You need to be chilling with her right now.
Right. Exactly.
Shouldn't be alone. Yeah. God, she could have a freaking asthma attack right here by herself.
I know. Get it together, Boone.
He's so pathetic. He just wants to be involved, and he's making it about him.
Yeah, those two.
They're a hot mess.
Yeah, they really are. Like everyone else in this island, apparently.
Yeah. King and queen of the hot mess.
Yeah.
I love Shannon's voice. That was my note for this scene.
Really?
Her, the tone of her voice, just in asking Boone to stay with her, she just does such a good job of showing her vulnerability here when Shannon's been so opposite of that so far.
Yeah, that's true.
So I just thought that was nice.
Yeah, she's really sympathetic in this episode, a lot more than she has been in past episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
Michael has gathered some kind of plants. He gives them to Sun and asks if they are the right ones. She says yes, but they're interrupted by an angry Jin. He says something to Sun, and she walks away. Jin turns back to Michael, who says, "Don't, man." I love the way he says that. It's like, don't even start with me.
I also like that we don't get any subtitles.
Yeah, me too.
Because this is from Michael's point of view. So we don't know what he's saying. And Jin seems extra intimidating when you don't know what he's saying.
Right. And Sun doesn't say anything. She just walks away.
Yeah.
Their dynamic is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Jack is still trying to stop Sawyer from bleeding out. Sawyer tells Jack to just let go, and that he knows he wants to. He says Jack loves to be a hero and fix everything. Sawyer looks at Kate and says she should convince Jack to let him die. They already made out, so what else does he have to live for? Sawyer then looks at Jack and says if the tables were turned, he'd watch Jack die.
He is saying everything he can to get Jack to let him to die.
Yeah. I mean, do you believe Sawyer when he says that? Or do you think he's just saying that to get Jack to let go?
Do I believe he wants to die?
Do you believe that if the tables were turned, he'd watch Jack die?
No, I don't think he would. Mostly because he was so traumatized by the marshal and that mistake he made.
Good point.
He seemed really shaken up. I don't think he would have if he was truly like a bad guy or a killer. Yeah. But I think he's saying that because he wants Jack to do it. And I don't know. I feel like he's kind of pushing him again just to see how far he'll go.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, he shows when he says that Jack's the hero and he loves to fix everything. Like, he definitely has it seems like a lot of people here are pegged. He knows exactly what they're about.
Yeah. And he knows exactly what to say to make him mad.
Yeah.
I also think he's just plainly jealous of Kate's admiration for Jack.
Yeah.
So, like, that's another hot button.
There's a lot of jealousy in this episode.
There is.
Yeah, and the way he specifically calls out that they just made out. He says that to get a reaction out of Jack.
Yeah.
He wants Jack
just wants
to know.
to make him mad.
Exactly, because Kate would never have told Jack that on her own, I feel like. Okay. In another flashback, Sawyer is meeting with Jess and David. He says they have a deal, and everyone appears to be satisfied. However, a young boy suddenly walks into the room. It's Jess and David's son. Sawyer suddenly calls the whole deal off. Jess says this isn't how it was supposed to go, and Jess and David start yelling. Sawyer leaves the briefcase of cash and walks out of the house.
Oh my gosh. The way his face falls when that kid walks in the room.
Yeah.
It just breaks my heart. Josh Holloway is so good.
Yeah, such good acting from him. His face goes through a lot of emotions in those 10 seconds or whatever.
But I love that this is the line that he does not cross.
Mm-hmm,
you know? Mm-hmm. There is one piece of the puzzle that he will not complete, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
it's weird because, you know, you would think, you know, if he doesn't want to continue this cycle that he is a victim of, you would think he would just stop doing it altogether.
Right.
But I guess if there's a child involved, it could continue. Or it's just easier for him to relate to the child than it is to relate to the adults.
Right, because he went through something like that when he was a child, obviously.
This was all fun and games until he realized that this was a family.
Right.
I honestly don't know why that has to be the line. Why was it okay before?
Right. Because, I mean, Sawyer's not an idiot, so it seems like, especially since this was done to him, he should know how damaging this is to people's lives, whether they have a child or not. I mean, I know he went through that when he was a kid, but...
I mean, I feel like he explains it a little bit to Kate later, when he sort of explains how it sort of started accidentally, and then he just kept doing it. So I don't feel like he even understands why he does it. And the boy walking in is just like a major trigger.
Yeah.
For him. And he's just like, oh, whoa, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
You know? It's really interesting.
It is. Okay, well, speaking of that scene, on the beach, Sawyer wakes up to find Kate sitting with him. She says she looked at his letter again because she was trying to understand why he would lie to everyone about having the medication. She figured out that Sawyer was just a kid when the letter was written, and that Sawyer isn't actually his real name. Sawyer admits this is the truth and says that was his name. He says he wrote the letter to give to the man who ruined his family. The man was named Sawyer, and he was a confidence man who seduced women and stole their husband's money and then left a mess behind. Then, when he was about 19, he needed some money quickly, so he conned a woman into giving it to him. And thereby he became the man he was hunting. He became Sawyer. He takes the letter back from Kate and says, "Don't you feel sorry for me?" And he tells her to get out.
And he like grips the letter like to his chest and he's like kind of shaking and it's so sad.
It is sad. It's just frustrating and sad.
It is. It definitely is. He is just such a tragedy. It's so sad.
I mean, this is the key to his character. This is why he's the way he is. I kind of feel like he wants to be hated. He feels like he deserves all this hate that he's creating in people because he became the man who destroyed his family.
Yeah. And I don't know if he like feels like he genuinely has become like that man or if he just constantly lives like he's playing the part of Sawyer.
By playing the part, he is that man. Don't you think?
Definitely. But I don't know how he like interprets it is what I'm wondering.
Yeah. This makes me wonder what the rest of his childhood was like. I mean, it can't have been good because he said this guy, Sawyer, killed his parents when he was 8 or 9. And then, you know, he was desperate when he was 19 and he needed some money. So I always just wonder, like, what happened in those 10 years in between to get him to that point.
Clearly got caught up in some bad stuff, but how did that happen?
Right. Because here's the thing with this. He's obviously a victim. He had this horrible thing happen to him when he was 8 or 9. And you could argue that he never really had a chance. But, I mean, he didn't have to. There was other ways he could have gotten money when he was 19, you know?
Sure, definitely. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters when something horrible like this has happened to you, but you're still responsible for your actions.
Right.
You don't get a free pass. Yeah,
horrible things happen to people every day. And some of them, they're victims and they never really come out of that. They never really can get themselves out. But some people make the choice not to let that define their entire lives.
Yeah.
And I feel like Sawyer, he made that choice. That's the main reason why I find him so frustrating, because he made that choice. And you can see he is a human being. He's not a total monster. Like he could make things better for himself. He doesn't have to be like this, but he made that choice. And it's just so sad and frustrating.
I feel like he's just never been able to dig himself out of the pain of that tragedy of his parents. Like, I can't imagine going through something worse than what he's gone through as a child, like during formative years, you know? So I totally sympathize.
Yeah, I mean, it's the worst. He's lucky he didn't become like a serial killer or something. Like all their backstories are usually something like this.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, no matter what you've been through, it doesn't mean you can be horrible to everyone around you. It doesn't give you a free pass to be a jerk in life.
Right. And he's not a sociopath. He's not like mentally incompetent, you know? Like he's totally aware of what he's doing and obviously what effect he's having on people, especially when he saw that boy in the flashbacks. So
yeah,
it's just so sad because he knows all that and he feels like he deserves it and he just won't stop.
I know, it's confusing.
Yeah.
It's like there are so many times where it feels like he is purposefully punishing himself. Mm-hmm. But you kind of want to be like, okay, well then just stop doing the bad stuff that you're punishing yourself for.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And that's why I find him so frustrating as a character. Sometimes, you know?
No, definitely. I mean, I find it frustrating sometimes too.
Yeah.
I think I just find him more interesting than frustrating, so it's okay.
I mean, he's definitely interesting as we go on to like 2 hours of this podcast.
Obviously, he's the most interesting character so far.
Yeah, okay. At the caves, Sun is rubbing something onto Shannon's chest, and it seems to be helping her breathe. Jack comes over and discovers it's eucalyptus. Jack thanks Sun for her help, and Jin watches angrily.
God bless Sun for some common sense.
Yeah, it's much needed in this episode.
We're on an island. Maybe we should use some plants to help this girl out. Thank you.
Right. I mean, we have an abundance of those, obviously.
Maybe we should give up on this inhaler fiasco and look for another solution.
Yeah. On the beach, Claire wakes up to find Charlie packing up her stuff to move to the caves. She asks him if he found it, and he says yes. He found some peanut butter. However, when he pulls out an empty jar, Claire is confused. Charlie persists, describing it as the best peanut butter he's ever tasted. Claire laughs, and they enjoy imaginary peanut butter together. And, I mean, come on. It's adorable.
It's the best. It's so sweet.
It is.
This is probably one of my favorite, like, romantic gestures in the whole show.
I was going to say, it's probably my favorite Claire and Charlie scene that we ever get.
It's very sweet. He's so committed to it.
I know. If he had been any less committed, it would have been weird and creepy. But it's just so cute.
They're adorable.
They are.
Thank God they're in this episode.
I know. We could all use some more of that. And I feel like people call them PB and J. That's like their nickname as a couple. Because of this.
Really?
Yeah. It's so cute.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Kate is standing by the ocean when she sees Saeed leaving. He says he doesn't know for how long. Kate tells him not to go and that they still don't know what's out there. Saeed says that he swore to never again do what he almost did to Sawyer and that he has to leave so he can keep that promise. He says he'll map the island and see what else there is.
I'm glad that he recognizes he did something wrong.
Yeah, he definitely feels very guilty.
Like, he has some self-awareness, at least.
Right. That makes me hopeful for Saeed in the future.
Yeah. He's, like, banishing himself.
Yeah, it's pretty drastic, especially when, like Kate says, they still don't know what's out there.
And again, I'm, like, kind of digging their relationship.
Yeah, they have good chemistry. It's cute.
They're just, like, kind of protective of each other.
Right. They're good friends, it feels like.
They just seem very genuine and respectful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've just never noticed it in any other time I've watched it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have either, to be honest.
It's really subtle.
It is. As the episode ends, we get a classic Lost montage over music. Claire and Charlie are seen walking to the caves. Boone and Shannon share some water, and Sawyer sits alone holding a lighter to the letter, but not actually lighting it. Saeed walks off by himself, and we cut to credits.
And they play a really sad song.
Yeah, they do. Poor Sawyer. I feel like in this moment, I'm like, just light it on fire. Just have a new beginning. But he doesn't do it. That's so frustrating.
Every other great episode in this show ends with things burning.
Right, exactly.
Come on, Sawyer.
Didn't you get the memo, Sawyer? That's what you're supposed to do.
It's definitely one of those quiet endings like you were talking about, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. When I was reading reviews for this episode, there was a negative review that said, it seems like Lost when they don't know how to wrap up everything. They just play a song and show people doing random things and say, bye, see you next week. But I like it. I mean, I feel like it's a good closure to this. Maybe not closure, but it's a good ending.
I like it too. It's a really dense, intense episode. So it makes sense to end on like a slower note.
Yeah.
We don't need them to drop another hammer. Finding out about that letter is all you need to know.
Yeah, that was already an emotional roller coaster. This is
right.
Fine.
So did you have any thematic pulls from this episode? Or like a question?
Honestly, when I got to the end of this episode, I was so exhausted. it was so emotionally draining.
My brain is done.
Yeah. But I wrote down, because this episode is obviously all about Sawyer, so I wrote down redemption as a possible theme.
Aww.
Yeah.
Because you want everyone to understand Sawyer and forgive him? Is that why you wrote that?
No, not exactly. But I feel like, I don't even know how to say this. I feel like Sawyer, he's fighting being a better person, moving on from this tragedy that happened to him when he was a child. And he keeps fighting and fighting and fighting it. And again, like we were just talking about, I feel like they've touched on this theme before. Obviously with, Jack said to Kate, we all get to start over here. Mm-hmm. So it's frustrating that Sawyer doesn't see that this is his chance to do that for himself. When he doesn't burn that letter at the end, it just seems like, oh, you really could have turned a corner here, but I guess you're just not.
He just can't.
Right.
Yeah, he's not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the question I thought of was, is it okay to do the wrong thing for the right reasons? Because I feel like we touch on that many times. Sawyer obviously doing all sorts of wrong things.
Yeah.
And Saeed and Jack torturing Sawyer. Like, is it okay for them to have done something that's clearly wrong, but in the interest of finding Shannon's inhaler? Mm-hmm. Like, they feel justified, but it's obvious that Saeed thinks it's wrong. and that they shouldn't have done it by the end of the episode.
Right.
We don't really see where Jack comes out on that. Maybe in the next episode. I can't remember if we do that or not. I hope he shows some sort of remorse for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, he's not the one who tortured Sawyer, but yeah, I mean, he did give Saeed permission.
He was like, yeah, he was like there. I feel like he's just as responsible.
I feel like in Jack's mind, he's probably like, oh, I saved his life directly afterward, so we're good. I'm not saying that that's right or, the right thing to think, but I feel like that's what he's thinking.
I hope not. I hope he's a little more traumatized by what he just experienced.
Yeah, it was pretty messed up. But no, that's interesting.
Like, Sawyer ends up alone at the end, and Saeed ends up alone. And I just feel like they're suffering the consequences of what they did.
I like that interpretation better. I like the thought of at the end, they're all just thinking about the consequences. Because when I come to the end of this episode, I said this at the beginning, I don't really feel like Sawyer's learned anything or that his character's grown at all. So I'm mostly, it's a pretty good episode, but it leaves me more frustrated than anything else.
Because you want to see his character progress towards a better person.
Right. If he had burned that letter at the end, I would have liked that a great deal more.
I don't think he has a reason to yet. Like, he has no reason
to be a better person.
Yeah, because everyone's being horrible to him. And I'm not saying that they don't have reasons to be that way, but that's not going to make him think, oh, I should move on and be a better guy. Like, yeah, I think he needs to be inspired by something.
What, he needs everyone to hold his hand and be nice to him so he can say, maybe I should be a better person and not be such a dick about everything. Like, what?
I think he does need one person to be nice to him. I don't think that's asking for too much, actually.
You get what you put out there.
He needs something. I'm trying to think of like if he had burned that letter, I think I would have been confused because nothing really happened to him that would make him release this thing he's been holding on to for like at least 15 years.
Yeah, but I think the way things escalated and that, I mean, Kate says he's lucky to be alive. I would think that if I was writing this episode, I would be thinking, okay, Sawyer he saw how things escalated really quickly. And I mean, nothing good came from any of this. And while it wasn't 100% his fault, he did kind of bring it on himself. So at that point, I would be thinking, okay, he's on an island, not in the real world. He should see that he needs to make this change for himself and for everyone around him because he's not a total monster.
But he doesn't see that because he thinks he deserves all this pain and punishment.
That's true.
So that's why I feel like he needs something good to happen to him to change his mind about that.
Like, good in what way? Like, just good of someone being nice to him or something else?
For someone to see something good in him that he doesn't see himself. I feel like that's why he's drawn to Kate, because she is seeing something good in him. I think he wants that to be true, but I don't think he believes it.
It's just frustrating because I wish he could make that decision for himself without relying on anyone else's opinion of him. I can see why he does it.
Yeah.
I get that he thinks he deserves this, but at the same time, I just wish that he could get there on his own,
Yeah, it would be nice.
It would.
So the other thing that I was thinking about was, how we mentioned that we should focus on names as we go forward? Mm-hmm. Have you ever read Tom Sawyer?
I have, but it's been a long time.
I haven't read it, which is sad.
Oh, you didn't read that in high school?
I read Huckleberry Finn, but I didn't read Tom Sawyer.
Okay.
I should, because I think Tom Sawyer is probably more my speed than Huckleberry Finn. Yeah. As far as characters go. But for anyone who has not read Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer, which are two books with the same characters in them, basically, mm-hmm. Tom Sawyer is essentially our Sawyer on the island. He is mischief and he is manipulating people and always trying to figure everybody out, and everyone's always trying to figure out what he is doing and why he's doing the things he does. It's like a very direct connection.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, like, if I can pull out anything extra meaningful about it other than Sawyer's, like, his draw to books.
Right, right.
But other than that, they just seem to be very similar characters.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I read that book, but it's been about 15 years, so I don't really remember it. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember much about him. I remember that he, like, played Huckleberry Finn a lot.
Yeah.
He was manipulating him into doing things, like he would manipulate him into doing his chores or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading this example where he, like, takes somebody's punishment for them and everyone's like, oh, that's so nice that he would do that. But it turns out that, like, he has a crush on the girl he takes the punishment for, and then she, like, feels like she owes him, and he, like, uses that to his advantage. And I'm like, oh, gosh, that's Island Sawyer.
Yep.
For sure.
Total Sawyer move right there.
Yeah, that's his little name history.
Cool. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that as we go forward.
Yeah, I'm going to look for everybody. Every episode, I'm going to look at their name.
No, that's good. We should keep an eye on that.
So, do you have any final thoughts? Did you hate it as much as you thought you would?
No, I didn't hate it. It's a good episode. Like, it's intense. A lot of stuff happens. I think my favorite scene is still the first one we get with Sawyer and Kate.
Yeah, me too.
Where he makes her read the letter. So it's good. And I think talking it over with you made me like it a little bit more.
I'm glad that we're doing this for each other.
Yeah.
You made me like the Jack episode a little more, and I make you like this one.
Yeah. And I mean, just so we're clear, I don't hate Sawyer. Like I said, I'm trying to, especially when I watch Lost this time, because I feel like a lot of my problem with him, while he's very frustrating at times, it's mostly because of the Jack and Kate and Sawyer thing. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm not just like, oh, Sawyer's the worst, when it's just because he gets in the way of Jack and Kate, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's one facet to him. So it makes sense. We're just going to have to compartmentalize for you.
Yeah, we really are.
There is Sawyer, Kate's love interest, and then there's just Sawyer himself.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, when you're talking about that Sawyer only has 6 episodes, I mean, I could tell you maybe 2 things about all those episodes because I never rewatched them because they used to just make me angry. So,
oh, that's so sad.
I know, it is sad.
Well, good thing you get to rewatch them now.
Yep, with you. I'm glad I get to rewatch them with you.
Well, I don't think we could possibly talk about this episode any longer. It's like literally double the length of every episode we've done so far.
I don't know how this happened, to be honest.
It's Sawyer. He just brings out the best in us.
Oh, he's so complicated. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this very, very long episode of Freckles and Blondie this week. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Again, if you have opinions on Lost, which I know everyone listening does, I mean, since we started this podcast, I've had so many conversations with friends about Lost, and they are never short conversations, and they're always very heated. So
that is so true.
Yeah.
I've been having like the deepest discussions with people on Instagram about Lost.
Have you?
Yes. Shout out to the Instagram peeps.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, if you have opinions, like Tiffany said, reach out to us on Instagram or email us at randy@thelostpodcast.com or tiffany@thelostpodcast.com.
Next week, we're going to be discussing episode 9, Solitary, which is all about Saeed, which we are long overdue for. So I'm excited for that one.
Me too.
So make sure you come back and listen to that. And until then, I am Tiffany.
And I'm Randy.
And you're listening to Freckles and Blondie.
Oh my,
Dun, 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 dun.
oh my God.